Welcome to the Toku Portal podcast. It's just me and Decade again. Don't know where Vashi is, but Zero couldn't make it today. Today we're talking about Kamen Rider Zi-O episode 23. We open up with normal high schooler Tokiwa Sogo. High schooler. Did you remember that he is in high school?
I did, and I just figured he, dropped out. So this was a surprise.
The only reason I remembered is because Waz says it at the beginning of every episode. So Sogo has not been keeping up with his grades. It's possible this is due to all the rider stuff happening around him, which would make sense. I don't think they get that specific. What we do know is that Sogo has to take a makeup exam, which he totally expected to happen. So would this have been happening if without the rider stuff? I don't know. What he didn't expect was that he would fail, and now he has to take a makeup exam. Even I didn't fail that bad in school.
Yeah, I think his powers are basically getting stronger, because I feel like he probably saw himself sitting, taking the test, but he didn't even see the answers or anything. So, yeah, that has Gates worried.
You know what? That gives this show more credit than I want to give it, but that would make sense. So, while trying to actually study for his makeup exam, he falls asleep and has another dream of the future, like with Shinobi a few episodes back. This future, there are machines that look like humans who are out to exterminate all humans. Fighting against them is another machine, who is Kamen Rider Kikai. His henshin device is a wrench and a screwdriver that he crosses across his belt. His suit looks like... I still have a problem with the double wrenches across his visor, but other than that, his suit actually looks pretty solid.
Yeah, it was pretty nice in action. I like the little camera filter they have when he's in the dream world, just to make it look more old-fashioned, just paying tribute to Kikaider.
Yeah, and it totally fits in with the style of the world itself, this post-apocalyptic world. This is what is it, the year 2058, I think?
No, it's 2120 or something.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's almost 100 years in the future. So Sogo wakes up because his phone went off. So remember that this is interesting, because with Shinobi, Sogo eventually just woke up, and then that was it. He got that glimpse of the future. But this episode is doing something different. So I like that they're trying to mix up the formula. Gay's in the midst of fighting another rider, and he's the one who actually called Sogo up. And so now we're getting into a weird territory with their relationship. The another rider is, of course, another Kikai. When they defeat it, though, there's no body inside the monster. There's no one who was turned into it with one of the Time Jacker's ride watches. What our heroes don't notice is an insectoid, parasitic-looking creature scurrying off after the explosion.
Yeah, that was definitely unexpected, so again, they're making some changes, and holy crap, the ending.
Yeah, even the Time Jackers themselves are confused by what's going on here, because the chick goes up to and asks him what are you thinking with this one? And Er's it wasn't me. And then she turns around to Short's you? It's no. It kind of seemed like they were setting up maybe a potential fourth Time Jacker that the others don't know about, but I'm not entirely sure if that's where they're going. Basically, where did this parasite come from is the question here. It could be a new Time Jacker, and I would have mixed feelings about that, because the ones we have already don't have a lot of character to them. But at the same time, adding a new one could be a bridge towards giving them character in their interactions with someone new.
Yeah, it definitely gave Short some more character. Not in a good way, but we got it.
So Sogo goes back to studying, falls asleep again, and goes back to 100 years in the future, where he learns more about the world of Kikai. Kikai is going around out... So the world is fucking dead. If you've seen Power Rangers RPM, it's basically that. Kikai is going outside basically the safe zone to track down humans who are still stragglers, to bring them back and protect them. And during this particular trip, everyone that he grabs is a child, with Sogo being the oldest one. Yes, Sogo is still a child because I'm pretty sure he's still 17. He recharges, so like when he fights, he uses up his battery and he recharges through like a satellite orbital beam thing. Pretty cool, actually. Just like the concept of this show is pretty solid. I'll get more onto that later, though.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't mind seeing a Kikai special.
Like, of the 3 Future Riders, Quiz was the most boring, right?
Yeah, disagree.
Alright, so, back in the present, Gaze runs into another Kikai again, wondering what's going on. Defeats him again, and same deal as before. Like, there's no body inside, they don't understand. And then, he and Gaze reminds Sogo, like, alright, well, he's not attacking right now, go back to studying. Okay, so here's my favorite line, though. A dropout Demon King would be lame. Which, I really like that line. Because, at this point, I'm just confused about Gaze and Sogo's relationship. Because, like, Gaze started out wanting to defeat Sogo, and it's clear that, like, he's been coming to like Sogo as a friend over the period of this show. But now he's just being so casual with him. Like, and I'm wondering what happened here. Because at this point, Gaze doesn't seem to care anymore. Like, I feel like White Watts has something to do with it, but I'm really confused as to what changed Gaze's mind here, ultimately.
Well, I mean, literally in the last episode, he knows that Sogo saved his ass. Because he would have just done a suicide attack. So that's definitely a factor.
Oh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense.
Also, the casual thing, even that seemed like an act. Because he still remembers Tsukuyomi's stance. So he's just kind of like in an awkward situation.
So maybe what's happening right now is that he's starting to trust Sogo more the way Tsukuyomi used to. My bigger problem, though, is actually coming from Tsukuyomi, who did a complete 180 and is now totally against Sogo. And my problem with that is that her reasoning is Sogo is now showing signs that he has the powers of the Demon King. But what's happening here is that she's judging him based off of that. Like, are the powers themselves evil? Is there no way that, like, from her perspective, is there no way that, like, Sogo could still get those powers and still be a good person and not be a Demon King?
Yeah, it is pretty strange, because, I mean, Gates is the one that we've seen holding one of his loved ones that died from Omazio, so you would think he would be the more hardline.
I'm totally down for Tsukuyomi being scared of Sogo now that he's, like, showing signs of the Demon King's power, but, like, okay, I say the Demon King's power, but I mean Omazio's power, because Omazio and the Demon King are technically 2 different people that in their future are the same person. Like, isn't it possible that Sogo could become Omazio without becoming the Demon King? And I would have expected Tsukuyomi to be the one to take that stance, because that's what she was kind of doing early on. And now she completely 180'd here after the reveal of Zi-O 2, and I feel like it wasn't really built up well, or maybe I just don't remember if they were building it up.
Not really, because I mean, even early in that episode, she's friendly and kind of acting like the bridge between him and Gates.
Which is why this 180 just bothers me. Like, I'm totally down for her switching sides, but this was too abrupt.
It doesn't bother me, and just because, like we've seen just in these past 2 episodes, this thing is super broken. Like, if he turned a little bit bad, he could just do some really bad things. Like, another Kikai does his rider kick, and he just predicts it and slashes him, and he's dead. It's so broken. So yeah, I can
Right.
kind of see where she's coming from.
I can totally be down for her being scared. Uh, but what happened was she became like she saw that and completely abandoned him. She was trying to help him. White Waz shows up and explains to Gaze that Sogo's dream of the future is probably a dream of the future, like a prophetic one. And Tsukuyomi explains that Sogo's power is getting stronger than theirs. And she's including herself in that statement, but real talk, Tsukuyomi is the least needed character in that, like, gaze revival trio.
True, true. And she's completely lost her role as Sogo's kind of support.
Mediator?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Sogo is all alone now, except for Waz.
I have some problems with this show that I want to get into after the actual episode discussion. But that's basically what my point about Tsukuyomi is. She's not needed. In fact, her role that she was kind of filling, she just abandoned this episode. So, Sogo goes back to studying and tapes his eyes open so he won't fall asleep this time. But Gaze, for some reason, wants to know more about. Oh, well, actually, this makes sense. Gaze believes that, like, if Sogo really is seeing the future in his dreams, wants to know what's going on with this another rider that they can't beat. So, he does everything he can to put Sogo to sleep. So, Sogo falls asleep, and in the future, something goes wrong with Kikai's satellite. Maybe it was hacked by the other machines or something. It is unclear what happened, or if, like, the present day events are actually affecting it. But Kikai gets affected and he basically becomes like the other machines, wanting to destroy humanity and acting a lot less human and more robotic. And so for the future, that's the stinger we leave off of there, which I feel bad for him because now he's going to be made to attack the children that he was just protecting.
Yeah, next episode is gonna be rough for sure.
I was actually checked out for most of this episode when I was viewing it, but that moment right there kind of got to me a bit. In the present day, Gaze goes to fight the Netherrider, doesn't wake up Sogo this time. Sogo wakes up anyways, though, after Kikai goes evil. I think it like shocks him awake or something, I don't know. After defeating another Kikai this time, Sogo's future vision pops in and informs him of like the parasitic insect that's actually the cause of it. And he also sees Schwartz attaching it to the Timejackers show up interested in this parasite, believing that this is game changing, basically. So he decides to aid it by Schwartz takes it and he figures, alright, let's see what happens. And he attaches it to despite Sogo trying to warn about it. And becomes another Kikai. And that's the stinger we leave off of for the episode. So with the Timejackers, is the one that I care about the most because none of them really have much personality. But is a kid. So he's a kid villain, and he plays his role really well. And so I'm looking at this effective betrayal here, and I feel bad for him.
For sure. I mean, the Timejackers never seemed like a close-knit team, but, man, Schwartz just totally screwed him over. And his acting was pretty great as well, so yeah. We'll see what happens to
So that's the episode. Like I said, I was kind of checked out for most of it, but the stingers at the end grabbed my attention a bit. What did you think of this episode overall?
Just overall, it's kind of been a while since we've both been on the Rider podcast, but I think the plot of the show is taking a good direction, but yeah, there's definitely some character writing that needs fixing. But I like this episode.
I'm glad this show is finally like taking its own plot. I'm at this point in the podcast, I'm going to be talking about my problems with Zi-O. So if you just wanted to hear our thoughts about the episode, you can probably check out now. Basically, the premise to this show, which is Sogo in the future becomes the Demon King and brings the world to ruin. that is an excellent premise. Like, the hero is destined to be the destroyer. We got that with Decade, and with a questionable outcome, but with this one, it's like, alright, this might have more promise to it. Except, so far, it kind of doesn't. And it's all about execution. For the first quarter of the show, we were, rather than focusing on the show's own plot, focusing on nostalgic callbacks to older shows. Basically, the veteran riders, while it was great to see them again on screen, didn't really do much. And I didn't feel like it mattered that they were there for the most part. Outside of Kamen Rider Ghost, who actively participated and I feel was relevant to be there. But for most of them, if they weren't there, I don't feel like anything would have been different. Do you have any like other perspectives on that particular bit?
No, I would agree. They didn't, even if they weren't riders, they didn't really have super useful sort of
roles.
Wisdom. Yeah, roles and wisdom to impart. That's why I really liked this Ryuki arc, because, Sogo actually grew from it and earned a form, which was nice.
And one thing I did like about the Ryuki episodes was that it kind of felt like this could actually happen after decades, after Ryuki's show. Like, eventually the journal he works for just goes under. But hey, Shinji and the editor are able to remain friends. That's a nice little epilogue piece. So, if the show's plot itself isn't being carried forward, and the veteran cameos aren't doing much, that leaves us with our actual characters for this show to carry it forward. And so, how well do they do that? Well, Sogo himself is a very bland and generic good guy main rider. Like, it feels more like he's the good guy because he knows he's supposed to be, rather than having any actual ideals. Seeing how his ideal is that he wants to be king. Well, what I really want to know is, why did he become Omazio in the original timeline? What drove him to be evil? So far, the show is making it sound like just becoming Omazio made him the Demon King, but that doesn't really fit well with me. Why are there's no reason for the powers themselves to be evil. I want to know what turns him evil. What do you think?
Well, I mean, honestly, Sogo's kind of grown on me since we've dropped the king meme being mentioned every single episode. Like, he's not super generic, he is kind of, I don't know, he's kind of happy-go-lucky, but he is kind of a smartass sometimes. So honestly, he's being developed slowly, but yeah, the whole premise of becoming the Demon King, it just doesn't seem real. So yeah, it's hard to take seriously.
That's a good way to put it. Like, Sogo becomes the Demon King. I don't believe you.
Like, let's just have one episode where Sogo does something really messed up, and then we'll kind of start worrying.
Like an actual episode that would make Tsukuyomi switch sides. Like, hey, Sogo actually does have his dark side to him, that he could become the Demon King. The Ryuki episode seemed like it wanted to do that, but it didn't. All it really established was that there's no such thing as a truly good person, and Sogo accepted that. But Sogo didn't do anything that made him not a good person. So Sogo, I guess, yeah, he is maturing, but he's not carrying the show by himself. So what about Gaze? Gaze came to the past looking to defeat him so that he doesn't become Omazio, and now he's basically befriended him and can't bring himself to go through with it. So what we're looking at with the current plot is that he'll eventually have to make that choice and do so. But my problem with Gaze is that he feels like an inconsistent character, and I think it's just that he's not very well written. It's like they wanted to do another Ren from Ryuki, but he doesn't really hit that mark of what made Ren good. Kamen Rider Knight had this internal struggle of having to kill someone to get his wish, and he knew that eventually he would have to meet Shinji as an opponent. And he genuinely became Shinji's friend. And you could see his hesitation through various actions that sometimes were played off as comedic, such as, like, the window incident. Like, alright, I won't fight you until you pay me back the money for that window that she broke because of you. And then every time he brings up the money again, it is a higher amount, which is played off as comedically, but if you think about it, what he's really doing is he's trying to, like, push that point farther away, that point where he won't have any reason to not fight Shinji. He's making excuses. And then you have those moments where he does legitimately try to fight Shinji. They do have a serious battle with each other, and you can just feel the weight and emotion behind the context of it, and how you think that, like, in a way, he's not entirely wrong for wanting to do this, even if it's not okay. We don't get any of that with Gaze. We just get a man who just kind of contradicts himself.
Yeah, he's basically, like, trying to establish himself, but we're already 23 episodes in.
Like, we're halfway through this show.
It's like, hurry up, maybe. But it's just back and forth, up and down, side to side. It's not super great.
Like, maybe they're trying to go for a it's not black and white thing with him, but he can't stand still long enough to be in that gray area. And then there's Tsukuyomi, who came back in time with him. And like I said before, she might be the most, or rather, she might be the least justified female support character in all of Rider. I cannot see anything she contributes to this show that couldn't just be given to Gaze himself. Like, she was kind of acting as that mediator between the two of them, but not to an extent that I felt like she needed to be there. Like, yeah, she stopped Gaze from outright killing Sogo on first sight back in episode 1, but that could have been rewritten as Gaze can't bring himself to kill an innocent person, and I feel like even that would have actually made Gaze a better character.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in other shows, we've had female and male characters just, like, even if they're not in on the writer thing, they're still, they give the writer some sense of, normalcy, their emotional support.
Oh, Forse does that one really well.
Yeah, but that's what the uncle is here for. So Tsukuyomi's just kind of, like, running around, and now she's with White Was, and, like, you just don't really care.
You had, the girl from Build, whose name I already forgot, who didn't do a lot outside of the Queen of Mars subplot, but even then, like, she served that role of just being there to welcome Build and Cross home when they got back alive, and she felt like an important emotional support for them, especially later on when shit is really, like, getting dangerous, and she starts they get more open about their emotions for each other and how they don't want to see each other die.
Yeah, I think one of my favorites is Kabuto's little sister, because just this whole time he's like a total narcissistic douche, thinks he's all that, and then you see him at home, like, cooking for her and just having casual conversation. It's like so great.
Kabuto is very much a family man. His wonderful, like, he's a big Mary Sue, but his one flaw is that he's an asshole and people hate him. But when he's around his family, whew. So our heroes, for the most part, aren't really doing it for me. But what about the villains, the Time Jackers? What are they doing? What are they doing? They're trying to create a new king to replace Omazio, I think. Nothing they do, though, actively goes against Sogo. They aren't actively trying to fight him. In fact, at one point, they just straight up ask him to not interfere. Are they trying to bring about a better future? Or are they just trying to bring out a future that they would be happy with, where they're kind of in charge because they created the new king? I don't know what their motivation is. I don't know what their goal is. I don't know anything about them other than they're the villains.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they should have gotten something by now, but we
They
don't even know.
really should have.
We don't even know what time they're from and how they came together.
Presumably, they're from the same time as Tsukiyomi and Gaze, but we don't even know that. So, Waz, the most interesting character on this show, at least for me. Waz is Sogo's devoted follower from the future, who, with all these time travelers coming back in time to, like, change the future away from Omazio, he comes back in time to try and keep that future. To try and keep Sogo on track. And I just like that. One of my favorite one of my favorite concepts is villain loyalty, and that's pretty much what Waz is. He is loyal to Sogo. Early on, I pitched that he might have secretly like been wanting to betray him, but from what we've seen so far, I don't believe that anymore. He's genuinely just Sogo's follower, and I love it. And I love his interactions with his future king. I love seeing Sogo get more comfortable with being his superior and calling on him for aid and such. I love their relationship that they have going. So Waz is my favorite character on this show.
Yeah, I would agree. Really, Tsukiyomi and Gaze, their only purpose was to keep him away from Waz in those earlier episodes. And then starting with last episode, it felt so great when they were back together, buddy.
Then we introduce White Waz, from a future where Gaze does defeat Sogo, who came back in time to help Gaze do that. I should like him far more than I do, but what we have here is a character that is unneeded in a different way. He comes from a future where where Gaze defeats Sogo. He comes from a future where Gaze's mission was a success. That future had to have been created without him. So what's he doing here? Gaze doesn't need his help. And this just turns him into a kind of character that just wants to be involved, that just wants to insert himself into history. I don't really get that impression. Like, I'm totally willing to believe that even, like, the original Waz is like that, but I don't get that impression as hard as I do with White Waz, with this swarmy asshole who just openly mocks others the way he does. Like, they actually have widely different personalities.
Which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it definitely shows like the effects of history and like that Waz grew up to be a different person. But he's still like the kind of guy that idolizes the great one of his time.
What I do like about White Waz is that he's willing to do whatever it takes, even if that means he has to smack Gates around a bit. So that's at least entertaining. Whereas Tsukiyomi's words aren't so entertaining. So he has some value. But I agree that, especially in the last couple episodes, he's just been showing up for Rider stuff and not much else.
Like, he has his own, like, little story going on here with the Gaze Revive plot, but it's not interesting to me, really. It feels like he's more, like, interfering where he doesn't belong. Maybe that's the point, because Gaze certainly doesn't like him.
Yeah, I think that's really the purpose of his character, is to have... It's like you said, like, the villains, the Time Jackers, they're just so, like, bland, well, they have been recently, that you don't really hate them or like them, like in certain shows. But
Right.
with Waz, he's just so despicable. So I think that's his purpose, to be despised for his actions. Like, oh, let's just kill Shinji to get rid of another Ryuki. Wow. Or another Ryuga. That was not very nice.
I do like the contrast of he's supposed to be one of the good guys here, and yet he's acting more like a villain than Sogo is. But I just generally don't like his character, which is weird because I, by all means, should love him. So, out of our entire main cast, we have one character that interests me, and since it's the characters that have to carry the plot forward, because of the premise is so basic, it's just not really enough. Especially since with the future writers, like they keep pitching ideas for better shows I'd rather be watching. Shinobi and Kikai.
Yeah, those are decent enough concepts. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, the show is just something to watch, I guess. I mean, we're having a blast with Sentai, and I'm sure Soldier will be pretty good. So I'm hoping this will get stronger once Oma Day comes around.
That's another problem that I have. When is Oma Day? Is it like the midpoint of the show, like, or like the 3/5 point rather? Is it like the end game? What are the rules here? What is happening? We're being told a lot without being told much. So if you stuck around this long, thank you for listening to me go on a little rant about Kamen Rider Zi-O. Sorry if it bothered you a lot. I just needed to get my feelings out there. We'll be back on Tuesday for more Super Sentai Psycho Battle, and next Wednesday for more Kamen Rider Zi-O. I look forward to seeing what happens with another Kikai. I look forward to seeing if the present events were affecting the future somehow, where the parasite came from. Even if feels betrayed by Schwartz and starts to question his position as a time jack. Like, there's a lot of potential being set up here, and I hope to see the show live up to it.
Yep. I feel exactly the same way. So, thanks for listening, everyone.